on what's shaping out with Iran so far, does it make sense to you why the administration has still, 48 hours later, not released the text of that agreement?
Well, Caitlin, look, Iran has been at war with the United States and our cherished ally Israel for 47 years. And I strongly supported the president's decision for the first time in modern history to take the fight directly to the mullahs in Tehran last year and then again this year. And I do believe the president has earned some latitude in negotiating an end to hostilities. But I have very real concerns. Apparently like an awful lot of people on I just don't trust the Iranians. I've been too close to those issues from my time in the White House, many briefings in the Situation Room, as well as my years on the Foreign Affairs Committee in the House. I mean, the Iranians, particularly with regard to their nuclear ambition, have essentially a legacy of lies. They lied their way through the Obama-Iran nuclear deal. We tore that up during the Trump-Pence years. Joe Biden returned to the politics of appeasement. And at least what we're hearing echo out of this potential memorandum of understanding, it smacks of appeasement. I mean, it sounds a bit like what I write about in my book, that the progressive left has long embraced appeasement against our adversaries like Iran, but there are voices on the populist right that would have us pull back from our role as leader in the free world. I don't think this is the time to pull back. I don't think this is a moment for appeasement, and I think I would urge the president to stand firm on the fundamental elements that Iran has to dismantle and abandon its nuclear program, dismantle its ballistic missile program, renounce the support of terrorist organizations, and restore freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz.
I mean, they keep talking about what a good deal it is. Obviously, we have not been able to see it for ourselves. Do you agree with I mean, you know the president really well. Do you agree with David Urban that if it really was a good deal, the president would stay around to sign it himself publicly and pass out pens like he does with so many executive orders on a daily basis?
I'd like to see us be at a place where the president would do just that, and that we would see people in both political parties in this country cheer it on. But look, at least what we're hearing about this, I mean, think about it. The language that has come out, and you're closer to sources there in Geneva than the rest of us, but the language that has come out, there's no mention of dismantling the nuclear program or the ballistic missile program. There's no commitment to ending support for Hamas, Hezbollah, or other terrorist organizations. But in contrast to that, there is immediate sanctions relief from the moment the MOU is signed. I mean, that could be upwards to $3 billion a month into the coffers of the Iranian regime. There's a pledge of $100 billion in Iranian frozen assets being freed up. At least some of the language that's leaked that would be released even before a final deal is struck in the event of progress. And then finally, calling for the United States and others to arrange for a $300 billion reconstruction fund when the IRGC and radical Islamists continue to be at the helm in Iran is deeply ill-advised. And again, I believe it smacks of the kind of appeasement that we saw during the Obama years, the kind of appeasement that Joe Biden tried to accomplish and was ignored by the Iranians, and we rejected categorically during the first Trump administration. I think the president should just simply stand firm, draw that red line, and if the Iranians won't come to those fundamental terms that are in the interest of our security, Israel's security, and the peace and stability of the region, then I think we ought to let the armed forces of the United States open the strait and eliminate the threat on our terms.
I mean, the president's not signing it. Vance, the vice president, is going to be here on Friday signing it. I mean, you know how the president approaches these things, how he thinks about them. By having Vance be the point person in these negotiations and in signing this, do you think he's being positioned to take the heat if this goes awry?
Well, look, when I was vice president, I had one answer with one notable occasion when the president asked me to step into a role, and I said, I'm here to serve. And I respect the vice president's role here, but I know who's making the deal. Nothing's changed in this new Trump administration from the last one, as far as I can see. I mean, the president is the one that's green-lighting this tactic and this strategy. And if I was still at his side, I would urge him to go back to his first instincts when it comes to Iran, and that is peace through strength. I don't know how we're going to have greater leverage over what remains of that terrorist regime in Iran after we go into another 60 days or more of a ceasefire and negotiations. Now is the moment to stand firm. And quite frankly, if Iran is not convinced that they are defeated and need to come to the table and yield on those points, then we ought to allow the armed forces of the United States and our ally Israel to convince them.
So, I mean, pretty bluntly, it sounds like you think, from what we know so far, this is a mistake by the Trump administration.
Well, it's much bigger than a mistake. I mean, when the president took that historic step to strike those nuclear facilities last year, this is the first time in 47 years that an American president had taken the fight directly to the mullahs in Tehran. And America was safer as a result. And the fact that he tried diplomacy for the following year to begin to make progress, and then finally recognized that we just got to take the fight to them, launched Operation Epic Fury. Our military responded brilliantly. But in this moment, the posture that we're getting from the Iranians, but my concern is what appears to be leaking out, these immediate concessions, particularly sanctions waivers right out of the gate that would essentially be a lifeline to the Iranian regime, I think is ill-advised. We ought to keep the pressure on, keep the blockade on, and if need be, let our armed forces get back to work.
Well, I mean, I think that's a good point in terms of, I mean, the administration keeps saying that it's performance-based, that sanctions relief, being able to sell oil, maybe getting their assets unfrozen. I mean, it seems like it's happening quickly. We'll have to see what the MOU says. But when you were in office with the president, your administration, the Trump-Pence administration, criticized the Obama-era nuclear deal for unfreezing $50 billion in Iranian assets. I mean, if what happens here, and they get 6 times that amount, plus potentially $100 billion, another, $100 billion and funds that are being unfrozen, I mean, do you think that's a defensible position for this Trump administration?
Well, it's whether it's a defensible position or not, it is the wrong position. I mean, to throw a lifeline to the Iranian regime when they are weaker and more isolated than they have ever been in history, I think would be a historic error. We have an opportunity right now to continue to pressure either just through the blockade or through additional use of force. We have the opportunity here to really end 5 decades of threats to the American people, to our cherished ally Israel, and to the region as a whole. Make no mistake about it. The pledge to renounce the pursuit of nuclear weapons, Iran has made that promise again and again and again. It was always built on lies. The only thing that would be acceptable here is the verifiable dismantling of their nuclear program, their ballistic program, renouncing terrorist support and organizations. There's an old adage that says, trust but verify. But if I was sitting next to the president, I would say, Mr. President, this deal should verify and then trust. We should demand that Iran, under the economic and military pressure we and Israel have placed on them, come to the table and verifiably abandon the course they've been on for 5 decades.